our next guest, Phyllis Dixon, and her book is Something in the Water. And we're going to be giving away this copy at the end of the interview. Although I might need to do it now because she might say the answer in the interview and mess it up. So it's based on trivia. And so, Phyllis, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV, or welcome back, I should say, to Black Authors Matter TV.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'm gonna do it now because it's really part of the storyline, and um, so here's the trivia for those who like to win books when we give them away. Hoping for to make a fresh start, a California family moves to a small town in what state? So if you name the state, the first person to name the state will win this book, Something in the Water. And it's Phyllis, it just came out a week ago.
That's right, July 29th.
Yeah, so how's everything?
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yay, thank you,
And,
thank you.
and this is book number, I know you had some other books, but traditionally published, I think this is book number 3. Is that right?
That's right, yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay. And that's really great. And all of your books are, the topics are different.
Right, yeah, they're
Yeah,
not
the
series, they're each
series.
standalone.
But that's good that you've been able to get signed with standalone books. A lot of the publishers like series.
Well, that's right. And also, that's easier to get a following too with a series
Hmm.
because once somebody reads one, then they kind of pick up on the second one and the third one. So that's might be in my future, but I hadn't done it yet.
Okay. And Phyllis and I were together as speakers in March at it was a book club that had been in existence for a long time, like since the 60s. And the original people who started it have all passed on, but the next group kept it going. So they had us both there as featured speakers for their event. And so that was fun and rewarding. And
Yes.
we had both spoken to the group before, but at other different times. When we spoke to them originally, it wasn't the same time.
Right. Well, as you know, I used to own a bookstore in Houston, and so the ladies were very good supporters of the bookstore. They were always coming in. Like you said, spoke to the group several years ago, and so they were just very good supporters of the group
Yeah, and I
of
think
the bookstore. I
it's
mean,
the Bennett Brooks
right. Literary
Literary
Society.
Society. That's what it's
Yes.
called. Hmm.
Yes.
And they were it was very nice, very well attended. They had like a
Hmm.
luncheon. It's very well attended. So tell us about let's see who won the book. It's hard to say.
Susanna Perkins.
Suzetta Perkins won. She said it first. Okay, Suzetta, I don't think you've ever won a book before. So you need to DM us on our the National Black Book Festival's page where you're
Oh,
watching.
wait. Nope, no. Yes, it was
It
her.
was Suzetta.
I had to look at the timestamps, but yes, it was Susanna.
Yeah, because it was a race between Curtis Stevenson, who wins books a lot, and and Suzetta, but she won. So DM us your mailing address so we can send you your copy of Something in the Water. So the answer is Texas. Is they moved, the California family moved to a small town in Texas.
Funny
So
fact, um, your book was on the Kensington table at the
Okay.
National Book Club conference, and when we saw the book, it wasn't time because they said you can't get the books until 9 a.m. We went to the, it was 8:45. We went to the restroom. We came back. The table was wiped clean, so we didn't get a chance to get your book.
well,
Oh,
no,
that's a good thing.
no, I did. This is the one I'm giving away, the one I got at the National
Okay.
Book
Oh,
Festival.
wait a minute.
Because remember, it was
Wait, Gwen barely got that book. There
I
was one
barely
book
got
sitting
it.
on the table, and a lady who had a bunch of books was about to grab it, and she was nice enough to let Gwen have it. So that's how she was able to get that book.
That's true. Because the lady who was gonna grab it had like 10 books in her hand. I'm like, okay, I didn't get one book. So she so but Kensington had had 2 or 3 tables
Right,
and they were giving them away for free to the people who,
right,
so
right.
of all, I mean, all kinds of books, all kinds of titles, some of everybody. So it was good. So tell us about your the storyline for the book. We know that a California family moves to a small town in Texas, but uh,
Right.
then what happened?
Well, Billie Jordan and her family are having some challenges in her home state of California. Her job goes away. Their son is has opioid addiction, and so they think maybe they'll do better and have a fresh start in Texas, a small town where her husband is from, and he gets a professorship at an HBCU. But instead of joining lower prices, sweet tea, they end up running into a water crisis, corruption, and life or death choices. So just some more family drama, but told against the backdrop of a water crisis.
Hmm. So were you inspired by, and I can't remember the town in Michigan that had the water issue for a long time. They might still have the water issue. Um, but were you inspired by that, or was it
Flint,
just other Flint?
The
Yes,
Flint.
Flint, Michigan.
right.
Yes.
Well, yes. Well, Flint was in the news quite a bit. And then also, I live in Memphis. And so we hear a lot about Mississippi. And Jackson, Mississippi was also in the news quite a bit a few years ago. But one of the interesting things in doing the research for this book, those stories are not that uncommon. There are a lot of places that have water issues, frequent boil water notices.
Right.
In a previous life, I worked for the government and traveled quite a bit. And there were 2 places that we went that I would not drink the water. Nobody would drink the water. And one of them was Jackson, Mississippi. So even when you check into the hotel, they would give you bottled water. And the other one was
Mm,
Washington, D.C., where they said don't drink the water. So I say it's very common, more common than we know. And another surprising fact that I
yeah.
learned while see, yeah, I know. While I was working on this book, you're in Texas. Are you familiar with Sand Branch?
No. Got a
It's in
lot of
Dallas
small
County.
towns in Texas.
It,
We got 1,000 small towns in
well, it's
Texas.
about 12 miles from downtown Dallas, and it started out as a freedmen's community, and it has never had running water to this day.
Oh,
Has
wow.
never had running water. And at the time, they didn't mind, they just want to be left alone, they away from Jim Crow and all of that, and they had well water, and so they were fine. But since that time, primarily like in the 50s and 60s, industrial plants were built and there was dumping there, so their wells have become contaminated. And so it's really a very tragic story if you read it, if you once you learn about it and you think, how can this be happening in the United States, number one, and right outside Dallas? So, like I said, and then
Mm.
there are other areas like in Arizona and other smaller rural areas as well. So I was surprised to learn that this is more common than we know.
Hmm.
It's really sad. I think we sometimes take what we think are the little things for granted. You know, I might not drink the running water here in the DC area, but when I want to turn on the faucet, the water comes on and it comes through clear.
Right,
When I take a shower, the water comes on and it comes through clear. But not those are little things that we can take for granted. But there are
right,
some people who don't have that. So
right.
I like stories like this.
And it disproportionately falls on Black and brown people. Because as we just mentioned, Flint, majority Black
Hmm.
city, Jackson, Mississippi, majority Black city, Sand Branch, all Black town. So it's just another form of environmental injustice.
Yeah, I would think it's
Right.
also linked to poverty as well.
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
Um,
Well, that's what it is. I mean, people who are powerless.
right.
Um, it's not going to happen in a well-to-do area because those people know what to do to advocate for themselves. But people who are powerless, who don't know how to advocate for themselves, or don't even know that they can advocate for themselves, it's easier to take advantage of those communities.
Right, right. And even if you know, I mean, there's a lot of instances I can think of some things that are going on in Memphis where people know to advocate. But again, like you just said, it takes money.
Mm,
You got to file lawsuits, you got to do all these different things, and it takes money.
Mm-hmm.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, to
And so
get
Billy
social
Jordan in the
justice.
story, that's one of the things because she actually, her background, she's a radio talk show host and community advocate. So that's why she's sort of used to sticking up for the small guy.
Okay, and then she has a platform too to get the word out if she has a radio, if she's a radio
Right.
host.
Hmm.
Um, but it is expensive to get justice. It's not free, mainly because you have to hire a lawyer. And unless you are, you know, with one of those groups that do pro bono work, and a lot of times you can't depend on that long term. They might just, and people don't might not even know that. And then also, in order to even ask for a lawyer, you have to be somewhat literate yourself. You have to be able to write a letter or an email or something. And a lot of people, they just don't have that skill set to even pursue justice.
Right. Well, a lot of this work is done by groups like NAACP, Sierra Club. One of the groups I discovered was Young, Gifted, and Green. So a lot of this work is done by nonprofit groups. Southern Poverty Law Center. Yeah.
Hmm. I haven't heard of Young Gifted and Green.
Well, I hadn't either. I just
Okay.
found them when I was working on this book. And actually, when I was looking at their bio, they got started out of the Flint crisis. And as I was researching it, I said, oh, wow, she's from Memphis. And then as I learned some more about her, I said, oh, wow, she lives in Memphis. So I actually got in touch with her, and she co-hosted my book launch in Memphis. And she's
Oh,
a
that's
wealth of
wonderful.
information, but she was on President Biden's Environmental Justice Committee and just a lot of other, she's on the Tennessee State Conservation Board. And so that's another thing that's been interesting to me. So I just did an event in Milwaukee on Friday, and there was a young lady there that is associated with the Milwaukee. I know I'm going to mess the name up, but it's something to do with water conservation. So there are a lot of young Black people that are in this space. And so that was one thing that was very encouraging to me.
I
Oh,
saw a picture that you posted, but I don't
mm,
know which one for your book launch. But I don't
Okay,
know
yes,
what city you were in at the time. But
right.
yeah, the word is getting out.
Well, I hope so.
well, you actually kind of led me into the question that I was going to ask. I wanted to know about the research that was involved with this story because it's one thing just to have an interest to write a story that centers on a certain subject, but what type of research did you have to do for this?
Well, it was a lot of looking at articles and also government reports as well. There's an author's note in the back of the book that has some factual information that has to do with water. This is actually two story ideas that I had. As I mentioned, the family is dealing with their son's opioid addiction, so that really was the genesis of the story that I was working on. And then in 2022 we had an ice storm in Memphis, and I was without water for 9 days. Now, somewhere like Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Chicago, that wouldn't have done anything. But Memphis, we were shut down. And so that was one of the things that got me thinking about you know, made me more sensitive to the subject. And then at about that same time is when Jackson, Mississippi was in the news for the same thing. Water theirs wasn't even related to a storm. I think the storm just exacerbated it, but they had always had um, water issues, feces in the street. Jackson has always had water issues. So those were the kind of the things that got me thinking about it. And actually, the author's note, I could have written a whole book on that, but of course I had to pare it down. So that's one of the things when you're doing research, you can kind of get off into a tangent because
Oh
it's
man,
so
go
interesting.
way down a rabbit hole with research.
Yes,
Like, oh, this is interesting. This is cool. This is
exactly,
great. The next thing you know, you're
exactly,
trying to put it all in there.
exactly. So, and the other thing that I wanted to say about that is with this book, it just kind of reinforces, well, I'll say my belief in God's timing. Because when I started writing this book, um, climate change has been in the news for, for a while, but it's really, really coming to the forefront now. So a lot of the things that happen in this book, have because of climate change. And then also now that we have administration that is cutting back government protections on water, again, a lot of the things that they're doing, Epstein, all of that takes the headlines, but there's a lot of things. EPA has really just been gutted. So there's a lot of protections that are going away. And so those two issues also, climate change and the government lack of, or cutting back, I should say, of government protections, make this a very timely book.
Well, I'll tell you this coming we're in hurricane season, believe it or not. And this hurricane season is really going to tell the story because of so many of these government cutbacks. We're going to really see what happens.
Right. In a lot of agencies that you've never heard of. And so you
Hmm.
think, oh, too much government. We don't need that. We don't need that. But what happens, because I used to work for the government, when something goes wrong, then that's the first thing people say, well, where was, this agency? Why didn't the government do this? Or we need this, we need that.
Hmm.
But, people don't think about that.
No. Well, I'm hoping that because I'm in Houston where we get hurricanes. Normally it's like once every 10 years, but where we get a bad one. We had one last year. So I hope we don't get any this year. So, and I know I don't want it to happen to anybody. So I'm hoping that the waters in the Caribbean and Atlantic are not that warm that where they are generating the storms. Normally around now we would have been hearing about some storms, but so far I have to keep my fingers crossed. So far we haven't had any this season yet. So you
Right.
just never
Well,
know.
and one thing is strange because I'm actually in Milwaukee now, which is my hometown. And so one of the things that you would never expect to feel the impact of in Milwaukee is wildfires. But the wildfires from Canada are affecting us. Some people have to wear masks. The air quality is very, very bad. It looks like it's cloudy outside or foggy, and it's the smoke
Yeah.
from the wildfires. So all of this is, climate change is real.
Mm. Well, it affects uh a lot of times we don't even know what the effects are going to be until things happen. And we need to be prepared to respond when these things happen. So
Right.
Well,
And
it
that
sounds like
requires caution.
your book has is going has and will and is going to start a lot of conversations with climate change, the water crisis, opioid crisis. So do you see yourself being able to I guess present to many of the advocacy groups in those respective areas?
yes, that was not my overall intent is to entertain. So I want people to be, entertained. But then I also want to educate. So that would be lovely for us to learn while we're being entertained. And another thing that I learned while working on this, I didn't even know there was such a genre as climate fiction. And so
Oh,
there's climate fiction awards, and actually, Erin
really?
Brockovich, remember that movie?
Yes.
So
Yes.
she has a Brockovich report and all this, following. And so Something in the Water is listed as one of five eco books to read this summer.
Wow.
Wonderful. That's great. I've seen Aaron Brockovich about 20 times. Not necessarily from beginning to end, but there's certain
Right,
scenes in there that Julia Roberts did an excellent job in her role.
right,
And the supporting cast was good too.
right.
And the
And I would
guy
say there's
who
some similarities with that and Something in the Water.
the guy who played her boyfriend, uh, I didn't know that was the guy from Batman. He looked so different in that movie that I didn't realize it until
Hmm.
how you look up actors, you look up the cast of something, then you see the
Hmm.
different things they've been in. So he did a good job of being a completely different type of character in
A
that
jerk.
movie. well, a biker who's,
Yeah,
not really doesn't have any ambition really. Um, and then she comes into her own where she's
right.
kind of been overlooked. So the whole that it was a very well done movie, and one of the good ones that you can watch over and over. Well, I do
Hmm.
anyway.
Yeah, I do too.
So that's good about the eco fiction. You never know. I mean, this is my first time hearing about that.
Hmm. Yeah, there's awards and
Well, I didn't
it's a
even know
good.
it was a category. So
Yeah.
that's the one
Now
that
most of them are um maybe on the fantasy end or dystopian end, but it
okay.
is a category. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, sometimes if you're in a category that doesn't have a lot of books, it allows your book to rise to the top quicker.
Hmm.
It's not a huge category like some of the other huge ones like romance or
Right.
it's not a big category like that. So something in the water is how are your reviews? Because it just came out a week ago. Have you been checking your reviews or
I have not.
you haven't? Do you
I
check?
don't
Are
want.
you one of those people that don't want to know what their reviews say?
Mm-mm. It for after a while I'll look, but for
Okay.
now I don't. And one of the things also is it just seems like there's not a lot. So that's one of the things when I look at other authors and it seems like their first day out and they got 200 reviews and I'm like, how do they do that? So,
Right.
They send out their people send out a lot of advanced reading copies. That's to
mhm,
to reviewers and just people. That's how avid readers. That's how they're able to get that many or pre-orders. Like
mhm,
people will do pre-orders. So as soon as the book drops, people get it, and then or sometimes they get it earlier than the release date. So
mhm.
that's kind of sort of how that happens.
But no, I don't read them for a while.
Yeah. So now this is book three, traditionally published. So are you working on the book four?
I am, but it's not going to come out until 2027.
Okay.
Oh, so you're
Well,
giving yourself some time. I like that.
Right.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, also they take a year for them to come out. So
Hmm.
even when they're finished and everything. So is yours finished or are you still working on
Still working on it.
it? Okay. And so what's this topic for this one? The theme for your next book?
I'm not going to say. I'll just say that it takes place in Memphis and it has to do with music.
Okay. All right. Oh,
That's
that's
right. Keep us
okay.
guessing, Phyllis.
That's fair. So, where do you hope to take your writing career? Are you one of the people who wants to do a book every year, every other year? You want to keep that going, or have you decided you just kind of playing it by ear?
Well, one of the things, they say be careful what you ask for. So of course I had wanted a book deal, so I got a book deal, but writing a book every year is a lot of work. So maybe I'll
Yes.
hopefully can cut it back to every other year, but then still not necessarily lose your audience. But then the other thing that is a goal of mine, which probably is everybody's goal, is to see my words on screen. My first book under my book deal, Intermission, which was about a book singing group. I don't know if anybody watches Beyond the Gates, but the storyline in the Beyond the Gates, the
The
singing
articulate.
group. Yes, I said, man, that's my story, and that's happened to me before, with Down Home Blues, what's it, Queen Sugar. That seemed a
Yes.
lot like my story. So I know I have good ideas. I don't know Oprah, and I think I gotta get to somebody like that. So that's also one of my goals is to see my
Well,
books
Phyllis,
on
you don't have
screen.
Oprah on speed dial? Like they
I
always tell
do
us every time.
not.
Look, every time somebody, when you mention your book, somebody says you ought to call Oprah and have her turn it into a movie, or
As
like
if,
like it's
as
that
if,
easy. Like I
as
just have her
if.
on speed dial. And if I
Exactly.
did ever on speed dial, I guess I just didn't think about calling her. I just needed you to tell
Exactly.
me that.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
and I think my books would be a good fit for a Lifetime because it's like I
Okay.
said,
Yeah.
it's, at heart is family drama.
Mm.
So that's kind of one of my goals.
Yeah. You know, sometimes it depends on the agent that you get. If they're focusing on, the movie, the scripts, and all of that, and then they'll ask for a treatment, which is like a summation of the script, and it's a process. But there are people out there. There's a lot of material now just on all
Hmm.
these different streaming services. It's
Right.
a lot of series and movies being made. So one never knows. And even if
Yeah.
you get option, just getting option, you get paid, even if they don't make your story into a movie. So
Right.
yeah.
Hmm.
Mhm. So anyway, Phyllis, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV.
Oh, wow. Our time's up already.
Yeah, it
Okay.
goes by fast.
Well,
I guess we need to tell people where they can get your book.
It is available anywhere books are sold, and it is in book form and audio.
Okay, all right. So, but it's
well,
only
I'll be looking for the audio book because I'm the audio book girly of the crew.
yeah, and Suzetta Perkins won the copy of your book. So, do you know
Okay.
Suzetta?
I do.
You do. Okay. So she
Hmm.
won it. And so, Suzetta, the book will be on its way to you. So, thanks so much, Phyllis. Have a great night. And
You
we'll be
too.
seeing you soon on the writing trail out there in literary land.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank
Okay.
you. Have a wonderful evening. It was great talking with you.
All right. You too.
Good night.
Bye bye.